Hello friends, Clage back with another Punishing Grey Raven video today, and I've been a little AWOL here because I've been working on something I've been wanting to talk about since this patch dropped. I think we have gotten what I would consider to be one of the most impactful and arguably the most important high difficulty temporary event PGR has ever had, and I am of course talking about Trial of Simulacrums. I think this mode is an absolutely beautiful concept of a temporary event mode. For those of you who've not checked out Trial of Simulacrum, this is a mode that focuses on getting the highest score possible, but instead of the standard kind of scoring we expect from Punishing Grey Raven, the stuff you see in Warzone and Pain Cage, where much of your score is determined solely by how quickly you can clear relative to the timer. So, you know, obviously, time stop is a massive, massive part of our Warzone and Pain Cage runs. That's what makes our scores go way, 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 way up. The more you stop the timer, the more you do ultimates, the better your score is. This is a pretty standard thing that we've all kind of learned playing the game at this point. Trial of Simulacrum takes that idea and turns it on its head, and instead challenges us to fight very difficult bosses. Some of the more difficult bosses PGR has ever put out, and do so as stylishly as possible. How this mode grades you is if you go down to the last page of the tutorial, you can see the point rules for everything. And as you can see, this is very, very different than what we are used to with PGR scoring. The higher your rating, the stylish meter gives you more points, but we have some crazy bonuses you get here, right? So getting your combos, you know, above 100 to 400 gives you flat points. Not taking any damage gives you flat points. Not getting hit gives you bonuses, 2 points, excuse me, percentage on the taking damage. But here's the big one. Here's the two big ones. One, casting your signature very few times. The less you use your signature, the more your point total goes up. I think that rules. I think that's really, really awesome. I love casting the signature. Signatures are some of the most beautiful animations in this game. They're very key components of every single character. They are a huge part of the personality of these characters. But the thing about PGR, for me personally, is that I think one of the things, if not the thing, that is the big draw of this game, the thing that will get people to turn their head and go, yo, what is that game? Is the combat, the animations, the stylishness of it all, the high-paced action, the high-octane action, the sheer amount of options you have available. We have characters with incredibly dense kits, from basic attacks all the way up to specialized dodges, parries, stances, our unique orb systems, all of that stuff. And this mode finally lets us be really, really expressive with this. And I'll talk more about that in a minute. But I think one of the best things PGR can do to broaden its audience, to get more people interested, is to show more of this nuance, more of this expressive combat, by not focusing purely on rotation and purely on the leaderboard style scoring that we're so used to. Now, everyone gets into this game, or any game, for different reasons. Some people might get into it because of the music. They might really like the character design. Maybe they read a chapter or two of the story and got hooked immediately. There's a million reasons to play PGR. You don't need me to tell you that. But I think for a lot of people, the big draw of this game is the combat or the music. Those are the two things that get the rounds on the internet, on YouTube. These things pop up on timelines all the time. Someone doing a showcase fight with a specific character. And this mode is literally the mode for that. This is made for it every way from top to bottom. In addition, this mode does something very important in my opinion, and that's that it alleviates some of the major problems of our leaderboard scoring. The leaderboards are still really useful. No matter how you do good or bad, you get rewards every week. You are compensated for putting time in, learning how to do Warzone, learning how to do Pain Cage. It's not like those modes aren't fun and they aren't rewarding. We get a lot of stuff from that. Some of our biggest weekly rewards come from those modes, right? But there are a couple things that really, really muddy the leaderboard aspect, and these are pretty obvious, but the first and foremost is that there's no separating spenders from non-spenders when we're talking about Warzone, Pain Cage, all that stuff. And what this means is you can play a perfectly done 2-minute Warzone where you don't miss a single part of your rotation, you hit everything on the head, you make sure you're saving certain moves or ultimates for a brand new wave, not clearing out 10% of a boss's health with an ultimate when you know the next wave's coming, stuff like that. You can do that to a T, absolutely nail it. And if someone has characters that are higher ranked than you, you're not going to outscore them. You're just not. That's not going to work. Leaderboards in gacha games that do not separate spenders from non-spenders can never truly be all that accurate. Obviously, we have the groupings. We have our ranks in Warzone. We have, the ultimate versus non-ultimate difficulty in Pain Cage, but there's no true separation. Once you're in the upper echelons of our main weekly modes, you're in there, and that means you're in there with everyone from the most free-to-play budget players to the Giga Whales. If a Giga Whale gets knocked out of Legend one week and falls back down into Hero, and you're in that week, you're not placing top 2 in that week. Like we've all been there, right? That's gonna happen, right? And so that's one of the big overarching things that we can't get away from. There's absolutely no way to get away from that. The other thing that I think really kind of dampens the overall aspect of putting up a number on the leaderboards for Warzone and Pain Cage is that it all revolves around the timer. The timer is far and away the most important aspect of Warzone and Pain Cage. The quicker the boss is dead, the less seconds that have added up on that clock, the better your score is going to be every single time. And because of that, ultimates are the end-all be-all. Being able to stop the timer is the most broken thing you could possibly do with the scoring system we have in our weekly modes. And oftentimes, this will cause us to completely ignore various parts of our character's kits because it doesn't make the rotation go any faster and get us to ultimates any faster. Now, let me say, I love me a good rotation. I've done Savage and Ultimate rating in Final Fantasy XIV. I have a lot of love and respect for being able to perform a rotation with precision while also executing mechanics and understanding surroundings and game situation. Like, that part is something I absolutely respect, and I think there is something to be said for honing your craft on really getting your rotation down, regardless of what ranks your characters are. There's an art form to that. But at the same time, we have so many incredible animations, so many combat options, so many things available to these beautifully created and animated characters that focusing totally on the timer feels very limiting. It feels very lowball from where the ceiling could be. This mode essentially fixes all of that. It challenges players to be really expressive with their combat approach while imposing very interesting challenges. I'm going to go back to this real quick. One of the bonuses is clearing the entire fight without touching the joystick. That's wild, right? Like, that's a hell of a crazy idea to tell your player, like, hey, the thing you move your character with in almost every situation, yeah, don't use it. Not even for a frame, right? That's wild. This forces creativity. This forces a lot of experimentation. This forces you to learn the characters available, and they give us trial characters, which is super cool. So you can try out different kind of characters, and all these characters play differently, but it forces you to learn everything about these characters. You have to know the most minute details of every single character's kit if you want to get high-end or even the top-level triple S plus scores in this mode, which is really, really, really cool. And the point I kind of want to bring up about all of this is that this mode should remind you of a very specific series, the one that's about to be a collaboration in this game, Devil May Cry. This is clearly an homage to that. This is clearly a, hey, here you go. You want a stylish meter? You want to play the game not worrying about the timer, not worrying about casting ultimate every 5 seconds and making sure you don't drop it? Here you go. Play stylish. Get whatever you want to learn, however you want to express yourself, show us. Show us what you got. That to me is just awesome. It feels so good to have something different like this in the game. Now, is this mode perfect? Absolutely not. The camera can turn into an absolute nightmare of a monster sometimes. The mode has definitely glitched on me more than once. As I bring up Veronica here, you might notice that down here on my hull score, there's just a big white box and basically a number. And the first time I actually got a triple S plus on Hell Mode Veronica, which is why I haven't been doing videos for a couple days, because I may have been binging this just a bit. When the fight finished, it didn't let me save the recording. It didn't bring up the numbers. It didn't do anything. The screen was just dimmed, and I couldn't do anything. I had to force close PGR and come back. I didn't even know if it saved the score. And when it did, it saved what I assume is near max for the score. And doesn't even show the ranking. So needless to say, I was a little upset. I was a little bothered by that, because I was working really hard because I want to make this video. I want to talk about this mode, but I also want to show that I've spent time with it so that I'm not just talking out my ass. You know what I mean? So finding out my first triple S plus run didn't take, and that I couldn't keep the recording, made me kind of sad. Little miffed, but. All right, we're back. I failed to get my cough button off in time, so I had to make a quick cut there, and we're going to finish up the rest of this. So my apologies. Sloppy on my part, but my allergies are kind of kicking in, so I apologize. Anyway, back to what I was talking about. Is the mode perfect? No, definitely not. As I've shown, it can be glitchy. The camera can really cause some problems depending on how you approach some of these bosses, but the positive that way and the negative is by a comically large margin. And I would love to see this mode become something of the gold standard for high difficulty challenges that come along like 3 or 4 times a year. Similar to like Babel Tower, I would love to see this way more than Babel Tower. And I like Babel Tower a lot. I think Babel Tower is a fun mode that challenges you, challenges your team building. But again, Babel Tower doesn't give you trial characters, doesn't give you trial teams. It truly is about how developed your account is. Do you have enough characters to be able to get through every single fight on max difficulty in Babel Tower? If you're a newer player, you're not getting max difficulty on Babel Tower. That's not happening. I don't care how quickly you've wailed or whatnot. There's just no way to build enough teams if you're a newer player. And we have a lot of newer players right now, thanks to the Global Sync and the future Devil May Cry collab. So I think a mode like this, where it doesn't matter if you never spend a single penny on PGR, or if you are the ultimate Giga Whale that might as well have stock in Kuro games at this point, we're all on the same playing field. Everyone plays exactly the same, and it's on you to figure out how to make the most of that. I am going to do a separate recording of this. I'm very proud of this run. It made me very happy. So I'm going to do a separate video on it so it can be its own thing. But I am going to put on one of my other runs that I got to Triple S with, just so you can watch the mode, because this mode's incredible. Like, being able to play like this and focus on dodging and outplaying the boss, recognizing what patterns, realizing when you need to use moves with more iframes, when iframes aren't your option, because the thing I really like about this is there are multiple moves that are just like, it doesn't matter if you are in iframes, this hits you. There is no escaping this. You have to be out of the way. And you combine that with something like one of the challenges being, hey, don't touch that joystick. That's pretty sick if you really think about it. It's wild. I don't think it is an accident that this became one of the newest game modes introduced in PGR on the Chinese server, not long before the Devil May Cry collab was announced. I would not be surprised at all if that deal was already more or less coming to fruition, and they immediately were like, we need to cook up a stylish mode. We need to cook up a mode that really focuses on showing just how far you can take the combat, how expressive you can be, how creative you can be with dealing with boss attacks, how well can you react to sudden things, how good are your parries, how good are your dodges when they have to be clutch, stuff like that. Getting a perfect fight, and my Veronica fight has no damage, every single challenge, I hit everything. Like, it was so hard, dude. It was absurdly difficult. That was one of the most rewarding things I've done in a game in a very long time. And you are talking to someone who is placed in top 8s at national tournaments for Guilty Gear, someone who has multiple world record speedruns. So I am not a stranger to doing the thing over and over again to get it right and figure out how to do it as best as I possibly could, regardless of how difficult the execution or the situational awareness demands are. This was hard. And, oh my god, I was, especially after losing that first recording, oh, I was hyped, bucko. I had a moment in my office when I got this fight, and I cannot wait to show it all to you later this week. My plan is going to be, I'm going to do a really high-quality recording of the fight with Veronica, try and deal with some of YouTube's compression, and I want to figure out a good background soundtrack to put to it and put that up later this week with just the fight with no commentary or anything. If people really want me to talk about how I approach this fight, I can do a second follow-up video where I do like commentary over the top of it too. If you'd like me to do that, let me know. But I want to take some time, probably record in 4K, which I'm gonna have to free up some space on my NAS drive or something like that. But I'm proud of this one, and I'm very excited to show it off. But I want to know how you all feel about Trials of Simulacrum so far. Have you been messing with this mode? Have you been dabbling? What characters are you trying? What characters have felt the most fun if you're messing with it? If you haven't had a chance to check it out, does this video make you want to check it out? Have I sold you on the idea that this mode might be the single most important temporary game mode we've gotten maybe ever? Let me know. I'm very curious if other people are as in on this mode as I am. So I just wanted to get this out real quick and talk about this mode. I feel like it's not being discussed enough, even though a lot of people have definitely talked about how much they enjoy it. I think this mode is super, super important for the future of PGR, and I will not be even the least bit surprised if this mode is a testing ground for some things they're going to do in the Devil May Cry collab. We will find out, but that's my hunch, is that we're going to see that coming up later this year, which will be really awesome. So let me know how Trial of Simulacrum is going for you. Have you been trying to get triple S's on everything? Are you trying to do every character? Are you trying to get some of the specialized nameplates we get as rewards? Very curious how you all are doing this, but as I said, I will have a video of my triple S plus Veronica fight out probably Friday, I would say. And this weekend, I'm planning on doing the prepping for the next patch video, and it's going to be kind of a verbose one. This next patch is very, very interesting, and I want to give people as much time as they possibly can to prepare for it, because there's a lot of little quirks and interesting things going on with our next patch that might influence how you want to save or what you want to do for approaching rolling and all that good stuff. But we'll worry about that this weekend. As always, appreciate y'all. Thanks for the feedback, support. Let me know what you think down in the comments. If you want to do the YouTube stuff, like, comment, subscribe, etc. It's always appreciated, never necessary. But that's going to do it for this one. If you haven't tried out this mode, seriously, I recommend it. I promise you'll have a good time. Even if you don't go for super high ranks, it's just, you get to do cool stuff. You get to feel like a god. You get to feel like a combat construct, and I just think that's really, really rad. So, as always, appreciate you all. I will be back in a couple days with another video on the Veronica fight, and we'll go from there. So, y'all take care, stay safe, and I'll catch you on the next one. Peace.